Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. The future of Scott County's Syringe service program is up in the air.
Scott County is no longer a bad story. We've become a beacon of hope.
It's credited with getting the county's HIV epidemic under control. Advocates are boosting efforts to promote the program. President Joe Biden boosted the refugee limit that was slashed under former President Trump. Indiana resettlement groups are eager to resume their work helping refugees, but first they must rebuild their infrastructure and budgets.
I hope we can resettle maybe 100 or 150 in the next several months, but lots of logistics go into that.
Plus, after years of coordination, hundreds of Native American remains were recently returned to a site in southern Indiana. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. As the Scott County Commissioners weigh the future of the county's Syringe service program, advocates are boosting efforts to promote it. Mitch Leggen reports.
Scott County is no longer a bad story. We've become a beacon of hope.
After slowing the severe HIV outbreak there, the clock is ticking on Scott County's Syringe service program. 2 county commissioners have voiced their displeasure with the program. Mike Jones, who's voted twice to end it, and Randy Julian, who said late last week he planned on voting against the exchange in a since-deleted Facebook post.
The commissioners partnered with us 6 years ago. They remained partners with us over the last 6 years, and we invite them to continue to partner with us.
Healthcare, recovery workers, and concerned citizens gathered for a town hall Tuesday to educate and answer questions about the county's Syringe service program.
We can't let them know we know who they are, and we can't tell people who they are, because that's the law that we have to abide by.
Those against the program, like the 2 county commissioners, say it enables drug users, puts more needles on the street, and are frustrated it doesn't lead more people to recovery. Advocates say that takes time, and ending the program could have a catastrophic effect on the county, which had just 1 new case of HIV last year after seeing hundreds during the epidemic earlier in the decade.
Those 9 people in my family are still alive, thanks to the SSP.
A vote on the program's future is scheduled for June 2nd. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Leggen.
My colleague Mitch Leggen joins us. Mitch, you've been following this issues for a long time. Now, you touched on it in the story. How do things currently stand with the commissioners?
Yeah, so Scott County has 3 commissioners, Mike Jones, John Lisenby, and Randy Julian. Mike Jones has been the most outspoken critic of the Syringe service program. As I said in the piece, he's voted against it twice. Now, on the other hand, John Lisenby, he likes the program. He was the only county commissioner to show up to the events this week. And then there's Randy Julian, who until the end of last week was seen as the swing vote. But then he took to Facebook in a since-deleted post and referred to the Syringe service program as a welfare program for addicts. He said it was basically leading more people to use drugs and making the county look bad. So he's planning on voting against it when they meet next.
So what happens with the exchange if they do decide to end it?
Yep, so I actually got on the phone with Michelle Matern, the county health administrator, earlier this morning, and she says it's up in the air. The Syringe service program is scheduled to end in May of next year. So this is kind of something the commissioners brought up themselves. They probably saw new HIV cases going down and figured, hey, it might be time to end this program. But if they do decide to end the program, they could cut it off right then and there, maybe phase it out a little bit, or wait until that May 2022 deadline. And I think it's worth mentioning that earlier this year at the State House, the state legislature actually voted to extend the statewide deadline for these programs until 2026. So at least at the state level, they feel this is something that should stick around.
Did Matern say anything as to what the effects might be if they do cancel the program?
Yep, so there was one case of HIV in the county last year, but there's still over 150 people living there with it. So unsurprisingly, she expects those numbers will go back up. But she was arguably almost more concerned about the message it might send to other exchanges across the state or even nation. We're seeing what's happening in West Virginia, where they just got rid of an exchange there. And Scott County's syringe service program is seen as the way to do it. So she's concerned about some of those ripple effects ending the program might have.
And Mitch, really quick, when's the next meeting?
Wednesday, June 2nd. John Lisenby told me he expects them to vote on the issue then.
All right, Mitch, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Monroe County ended its mask mandate and social distancing this week for individuals who are fully vaccinated. However, masks are still required in government buildings, schools, medical offices, public transportation, and in many businesses. More than 45% of the eligible population, which now includes 12 to 15-year-olds, has been fully vaccinated in Monroe County, but city leaders are warning we're not out of the woods yet.
Most people are not vaccinated, and that means there's still real risk of transmissions, of sickness, even fatalities.
Indiana University announced today it would require vaccines for all students, staff, and faculty this fall. Students who fail to get vaccinated by August 15th could have their classes canceled and IU access revoked. Faculty and staff who don't get vaccinated will no longer be employed by the university. There are exemptions for health and religious reasons. Well, Bloomington's plan to annex parts of Monroe County took another step forward this week. The Bloomington City Council voted to formally begin talks on the issue in early August. Mayor John Hamilton says the proposal is similar to the one passed in 2017 that didn't hold due to a statewide law enacted by Governor Eric Holcomb.
Put another way, our existing city boundaries are out of date. They no longer represent the on-the-ground realities of our community.
The state Supreme Court struck down Holcomb's law last December, putting annexation back on the table. The plan is estimated to draw $14.5 million in revenues over 7 years beginning in 2024. It would also add over 9,000 acres and more than 14,000 residents to Bloomington. The city will host a required public hearing August 4th. From there, the council will consider the proposal for final adoption and make any last-minute changes sometime in September. Indiana is headed to court over a new law that requires doctors to tell patients about a so-called abortion reversal procedure that major medical organizations call unproven and unethical. Medication-induced abortions require pregnant people to take 2 pills at separate times. Anti-abortion advocates promote a procedure that, in the middle of the process, purports to reverse the abortion. There is only anecdotal evidence of its success, but Hoosier doctors must now tell patients about the procedure under the new Indiana law. Well, what started with just a handful of boxes has now expanded to dozens around Indiana and in several other states. Adam Pinsker spoke with the founder of Safe Haven Baby Boxes on why the program is so successful.
Tessa Higgs and her husband got Nola at just 1 month old.
Her mother actually surrendered her to a police officer.
Nola was given up under Indiana's Safe Haven law. Passed 2 decades ago, it allows a woman to give up her newborn without fear of prosecution. But not all abandoned babies are as lucky as Nola.
These babies are either going to end up in a dumpster or they're going to end up in our baby box. Those are the 2 options at this point.
Monica Kelsey, who as a baby was given up at birth, credits these baby boxes for cutting back on the number of newborn deaths.
We've never had a dead baby since those boxes are in, and we've had a record number of babies in our boxes.
On Wednesday, the 59th and 60th baby boxes opened, 1 in Martinsville and 1 in Franklin. A mother can anonymously place her newborn in this box located on the side of the Martinsville fire station. An alarm is tripped, and a firefighter or first responder immediately tends to the child. The box is climate controlled and includes a bassinet.
So this mother, all she has to do is use her own feet to come here and place her child in our box, and this child will be picked up within a couple of minutes.
Kelsey and Higgs both credit the boxes and the Safe Haven law with giving kids like Nola a fighting chance at finding a loving family.
Nola has been such a blessing to our family. We had just kind of came to terms that a baby just wasn't in the future for us.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.
Kelsey says there's a long waiting list for couples looking to adopt safe haven babies in Indiana. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Bloomington approved its new Unified Development Ordinance this week. One of the most contentious issues is legalizing duplexes within core neighborhoods. And we visit Angel Mounds near Evansville, where the remains of nearly 700 Native Americans were recently repatriated by Indiana University. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Stay close to Indiana Newsdesk as we trace education issues all the way from the Capitol to your child's classroom. So many topics that arise each year in the State House affect what happens every day in the schoolhouse. The WTIU News Team is committed to helping you stay up to date with the issues that affect your family's future. Keep yourself informed. Tune in to Indiana Newsdesk, your source for regional and state in-depth news.
She's the White House correspondent for the PBS NewsHour.
It has been a historic and traumatic week in Washington, D.C.
Former reporter for the New York Times, political analyst for NBC, and multimedia journalist at USA Today.
Join me this week and every week for a critical look at this week's top news stories.
Yamiche Alcindor, the new moderator of Washington Week.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Earlier this month, President Joe Biden raised the cap on the number of refugees the U.S. accepts into the country after former President Trump lowered the level for years. It's welcome news for the organizations who bring those people in, but as Mitch Leggen reports, they'll have to rebuild a network hit hard by years of cutbacks.
Cole Varga is hoping videos like this one start dominating his social media again. In recent years, they've become a lot less frequent.
I think refugee resettlement is one of the best things we do as a country. So not just reuniting families, but just giving people a new home and a new chance at life.
Exodus Refugee Immigration is Indiana's largest refugee resettlement program. Varga oversees a pipeline that gives thousands of people across the globe a shot at freedom in the United States. But under the Trump administration, that pipeline had been reduced to a trickle.
The United States will not be a migrant camp, and it will not be a refugee holding facility. Won't be.
In 2016, the last year before President Trump took office, the U.S. admitted about 85,000 refugees. Last year, he set the cap at a record low of 15,000, and actual numbers didn't come close.
This was a very large and in many respects unprecedented policy-based decision to say we want to allow far fewer refugees to come into the United States.
Record lows for the federal government meant record lows at Exodus. Their annual resettlements plummeted from an average of about 900 to 175 last year. And this year isn't looking much better.
During the Trump administration, we've resettled about as many people as perhaps 1 year during the Obama administration.
With the federal government limiting the supply of refugees, over 1/3 of resettlement agencies were forced to close. Many, including Exodus, have budgets tied to the number of people they help. Vargas says there was a point he was concerned Exodus might have to shut down. They were able to make it work, but not without cutting 15 positions on staff.
You know, the institutional knowledge, the expertise, the language capacity that you lose when you have to drop 1/3 of your staff overnight is hard to recover from.
Just over 20 refugees have been resettled in the state since October. Two of them are Jean Sengyunva's wife, Nicole Nina, and daughter, Tracy.
It was like heaven coming. I don't know how. I mean, it was so beautiful. It was good.
Jean arrived in the U.S. in 2016, right before the cuts. Because of the lengthy approval process and curtailed limits, his wife and daughter didn't get to the country until last month.
My heart was always beating, I never saw her. I just saw her like 3 weeks ago now. So she didn't know she had a daddy. She just knew that my daddy is in the phone. And then me not seeing my wife for 4 years, it's crazy. It's crazy.
After years of waiting, the family's spending a whole lot of time together. They say President Biden's raised limit creates opportunities for others to do the same. Biden would like to welcome 62,000 refugees by the end of the fiscal year. But given the damage done to the refugee program's infrastructure, hitting that number is likely impossible.
I think the resettlement agencies will emphasize that they welcome the challenge, but there is a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done.
At Exodus, that starts with building funds back up and rehiring and training positions that were previously cut. That includes English teachers, case managers.
The laws, the norms, all that stuff, to be ready for employment, to be ready to get your kids to school, to be ready to shop at a supermarket for the first time, right? So there's a lot of things built into the curriculum.
But the larger refugee network must also be rebuilt. Varga's reaching back out to apartment complexes and employers, but says work must be done on the federal end too, to reach the levels of previous eras.
I'd say due to the damage to the infrastructure of this program, both overseas and the networks here, it's probably more like 21,000 this year because we're already so far along in the year.
They'll have no shortage of people who need help. Some 35,000 refugees have been cleared to settle in the U.S., and 100,000 remain in the pipeline. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Leggen.
After several months of public debate, Bloomington's new Unified Development Ordinance is now final. The highly contentious issue of legalizing duplexes within core neighborhoods and other areas is written into law. Ethan Burks reports.
For 2 years, the city has been in constant disagreement with some of its residents over changes to local zoning. The Unified Development Ordinance, or UDO, is the guiding document for these changes, which now incorporates duplexes as a form of housing in several residential areas, including the core neighborhoods. The city's goal in adding duplexes is to create more affordable living options in Bloomington's expensive market.
When two units share the cost of one plot of land, that naturally makes them lower cost.
But not everyone on the city council, nor a large, vocal portion of the community, believes duplexes are right for the core neighborhoods. Many fear they will attract large-scale real estate developers to replace existing single-family homes into duplexes that will ultimately negatively affect core neighborhood housing prices, as well as the character of those areas.
The development community and the private equity firms who see investments such as this as highly lucrative will seize on this opportunity.
That's why Rollo and fellow councilmember Susan Sandberg introduced amendments to restrict duplexes. 2 amendments passed. One makes duplexes conditional use within the neighborhoods, and the other places a yearly cap on duplexes at 15. There's also a 150-foot buffer for adding a duplex to side-by-side lots that lasts for 2 years.
Duplexes are now conditional use. There must be a neighborhood meeting as part of that process, and the conditional use will be considered at a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, another public body.
The restrictions have not satisfied those who oppose duplexes in their neighborhoods. Hundreds of residents have attended UDO hearings over the last 2 years, speaking out against Plex housing. But the measure stands, and the future balance of Bloomington's core neighborhoods will be a waiting game.
With that in mind, and with all the disappointments that I feel, and that I know many of our constituents feel, all I will say is let's go onward to some community healing, to trying to find that common ground.
The city is required to update the city council every 6 months on housing petitions and market conditions. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Burks.
Indiana University has returned the remains of more than 700 Native Americans to Angel Mounds in accordance with the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act of 1990. Holden Abshur reports.
The repatriation of Native American remains took place on a single day in March after years of coordination between IU's Glenn A. Black Laboratory of Archaeology, various tribal nations, and Angel Mounds.
The tribes involved were the Miami, the Shawnee, the Eastern Band of the Shawnee, and the Quapaw. And the Quapaw were all over southern Illinois, which is as close to Angel as you possibly can get.
Angel Mounds is a state historic site located on the Vanderburgh-Wart County line near Evansville. The 600-acre property was a regional trading hub along the Ohio River until 1450. Native Americans living in the area are classified as Mississippians, which is a culture. Within the walls of the civilization, there were 11 mounds, or truncated pyramids.
Contrary to popular belief, the mounds like you see behind me here at Angel Mounds weren't actually used as burial sites. Instead, they were viewed as status symbols. People lived on top of them. The bigger your mound, the more important you were.
Similar structures can be found as far north as Wisconsin and as far south as Fort Walton, Florida. Glenn Black discovered the remains during digs at the site between 1939 and 1964. But modern techniques have changed the way the mounds are studied.
You would never see an excavation like happened in the late 30s and 40s with the WPA, where they opened up almost a half acre at once. Today, excavation units are small. They're able to be maintained.
Linderman says the recent research is focused on using non-invasive techniques.
The science has advanced so much from when Glenn Black was doing excavations here up into the 60s that we're pulling things off the site now that he never would have even dreamt of, as far as like pollen content in the soil.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Holden Apsher.
Brood-X cicadas have arrived in southern Indiana, beginning a month-long natural event that occurs every 17 years. Emma Atkinson explains what we're seeing and how one Bloomington group plans to make the most of the cicada apocalypse.
Researchers say Bloomington will be one of the hardest hit places, with millions of cicadas emerging this week to molt and mate. Cicadas will appear as nymphs, smaller, browner versions of their adult selves. Once they emerge from the ground, they search for a vertical surface, usually a tree or a plant, to begin molting. During that process, cicadas shed their exoskeletons, commonly known as shells. After molting and toughening up a bit, they'll begin the noisy process of looking for a mate. Male cicadas sing and females respond. Looking for cicadas? Check around the bases of deciduous or leafy trees. You'll often find cicadas clinging to the trunks or hanging off lower branches. And yes, you can eat them. Cicadas should be collected for consumption before or immediately after they shed their exoskeletons, when they are softest and lightest in color. Pregnant women and people with shellfish allergies are advised against eating cicadas of any kind.
It's like if you could cross a very mild crawfish or shrimp flavor with asparagus. Like, they do have that kind of vegetable taste to them.
Jeremy Chasteen, a local commercial chef, is part of a group of Bloomington locals who are planning a Brood 10-themed dinner theater experience, complete with gourmet cicada foods and a dessert collaboration with Le Petit Café. Chasteen joined All Creatures Yum after local musician Aaron Jones and marketing professional and digital artist Ben Crum came together to create a summer celebration of the 17-year natural event. Chasteen says the group's Facebook group is a place for people to share photos and videos of Brood 10, as well as recipes and crafts.
The nice thing about most of our dishes is that the majority of them will be available for people who don't want to eat a cicadas.
Chasteen says All Creatures Yum's first official event will take place June 9th and continue with a few more over the summer, with limited tickets available through their website. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Emma Atkinson.
Well, the Little 500 bicycle race returns this year after the pandemic forced a cancellation for the first time in race history. Mitch Leggen looks back at the beginnings of the world's greatest college weekend in history through headlines.
It was March 14th, 1951. Americans opening their newspapers were introduced to a young Dennis Mitchell. Perry Como topped the charts with his hit song If, and former IU Foundation President Howdy Wilcox announced a new way to raise scholarship money for working students. The headline reads, Indiana University students will stage Little 500 bicycle race. While walking through the Bloomington campus one day, Howdy Wilcox saw a group of students racing bikes. To Wilcox, son of a race car driver, it was a perfect way to raise funds for the new IU Student Foundation.
The IU Student Foundation was sort of born out of this idea that Howdy had to do a Little 500 race on bicycles instead of in cars up in Indy.
The inaugural race took place that May, billed as the greatest college bicycle race in the world. It would be 200 laps, just like the big race in Indianapolis, but only 50 miles, as opposed to the standard 500.
There was a men's race only. The women's race started in 1988. And it's really turned into an incredible tradition since then.
The race became so popular, it earned the designation of World's Greatest College Weekend. It was immortalized in the 1979 Oscar-winning film Breaking Away, and then Senator Barack Obama even made a stop at the 2008 women's race during his initial run for president. But the race had never been canceled until last year.
I think it's going to give people something to look forward to watching, and I hope that it really instills a sense of excitement moving into the next school year.
Since its first running in 1951, the race has raised over $2 million in scholarship funds for students. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Leggen.
Now, there will be no fans for both races, but they'll be live streamed on the IU broadcast website. That's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.